They burned my orchard during a county fire ban and thought they'd won. I'm Ezra, a retired firefighter, standing in a silent field of ash where 120 heritage apple trees once stood, 20 years of my life, planted with my late wife's hands, now reduced to warm charcoal under my boots. The morning air hangs heavy with diesel and scorched wood, while across the street, $5 million McMansions gleam untouched. Yesterday, HOA President Karen Whitfield stood on her porch in silk pajamas, sipping a $7 latte, smiling as county workers dropped torches. Big mistake. Never burn a firefighter's legacy when your own cul-de-sac is a code violation tinderbox. 6 months later, I'm sinking new saplings into rich black soil while Karen's designer palace is twisted rebar and regret. Fire doesn't follow HOA rules. It just comes home. 15 years ago, I bought 3 acres in what used to be Willowbrook Farms. Real farmland with soil so black and rich it stuck to your boots like chocolate cake batter. My wife Sarah and I had this crazy dream. A heritage apple orchard with heirloom varieties you can't buy in stores. We planted 120 trees with our own hands. Gravenstein, Arkansas Black, Esopus Spitzenberg. Sarah researched every variety while I dug holes until my back screamed. The satisfying thunk of applewood stakes hitting packed earth. The sweet smell of fresh mulch on summer mornings. That was our paradise. Then developers moved in, slapped down McMansions worth $800,000 each, complete with HOA rules thicker than a phone book. I was grandfathered in. My property predated their precious covenants. Enter Karen Whitfield, real estate agent married to City Councilman Bradley. They moved in 5 years ago in a house so white it looked like a dental office. The kind of woman who calls cops on Mexican landscapers for loitering but never mentions the white contractors. Her first complaint? My compost smelled ethnic. Yeah, Karen, decomposing apple peels smell like agriculture. Shocking discovery. Then came citations for excessive truck traffic, 4 pickups during harvest season, measuring my grass with an actual ruler, photographing my mailbox for being 3 inches off center, and once calling a city inspector because my garden hose was industrial green instead of suburban beige. But her biggest issue? My trees blocked her $1 million mountain view. This neighborhood has standards, she told me last spring, standing in my fence in tennis whites that cost more than my truck payment. Maybe it's time you considered what's best for people who actually contribute to property values. Growing food was somehow less valuable than selling overpriced houses to tech brothers. Sarah died 3 years ago, cancer. Karen knew this, sent a fruit basket, and everything. Didn't stop her from ramping up the pressure 6 months later. Then came county fire restrictions, standard Oregon summer stuff. But Karen saw opportunity. She called an emergency HOA meeting, didn't invite the guy with actual firefighting experience, and declared my orchard an imminent hazard. Mature apple orchards suppress fires, not spread them. But Karen wasn't interested in facts. She was interested in my land. Within 48 hours, I found a certified letter, 72-hour notice for emergency vegetation removal by Precision Tree Service. I dialed the number, got a recording. Thank you for calling Bradley's Emergency Services. Her own husband's company. The work order was bureaucratic poetry. Remove all vegetation within 50 feet of neighboring structures per County Fire Ordinance 847B. I'd memorized fire codes for 30 years. Never heard of 847B. Off to the county building I went. The clerk couldn't find Ordinance 847B anywhere. It only applied to undeveloped wildland, not agricultural property. My lawyer filed an emergency injunction. Judge Martinez granted a temporary restraining order. No tree cutting until proper hearings. I was sipping victory beer when a neighbor whispered that Bradley was golfing with the judge. Next morning, my TRO had expired due to clerical error. Time to fight fire with fire. I called Channel 8 News. The story aired. Retired firefighter battles corrupt HOA using illegal court connections. Agricultural experts explained how orchards suppress fire. My old fire chief called Karen's claims baseless. Karen's Facebook counterattack imploded when I posted the full segment. Then she made her biggest mistake. Thursday at dawn, chainsaws roared. I watched 6 men destroy 20 years of my life. Karen stood at the property line in her silk robe, coffee steaming, waving like we were old friends. Safety first, Ezra. County orders. By noon, 120 trees were gone. They piled the wood and set it ablaze during the fire ban. Black smoke billowed while the crackling applewood made my chest feel carved out. But I got smart. I documented everything. Illegal burn, license plates, Karen's smile. Volunteer firefighters arrived. My old battalion chief went pale. Karen waved fake papers, an agricultural waste exemption that didn't apply. Then an emergency survey revealed the crew cut 15 feet into protected wetlands buffer zone. 12 trees there, $50,000 penalties each in Oregon. $600,000 in fines. Hidden trail cameras captured the crew going over lines, Karen handing an envelope to a replacement surveyor. Business records showed Precision Tree Service belonged to Bradley. She'd used HOA funds to pay her husband for environmental crimes on public land. Complaints flew to state agencies, prosecutor, ethics board, with GPS evidence and bribery audio. Karen panicked with a frivolous lawsuit demanding $50,000 for harassment. The newspaper ran, HOA president sues firefighter over environmental complaints. She doubled down with propaganda newsletters claiming property values jumped 3% thanks to proactive management. My insurance adjuster uncovered fraud. Karen filed smoke damage claims the same day, before the burn even started. Patterns showed manufactured emergencies, Bradley's companies swooping in, insurance payouts. A neighbor brought audio of Karen threatening tax hikes unless people cooperated. Witness intimidation, federal felony. The real earthquake. FBI traced $2.3 million in payouts over 8 years. The Whitfields were running a residential fraud empire. Fake HOAs, forced sales, shell companies. Original HOA papers showed Karen signed incorporation before moving in, forged signatures, impossible math. They'd planned my destruction for months, seeing Sarah's death as opportunity. But the HOA was legally void. Every action against me was invalid. Federal agents moved in. Neighbors testified. Environmental penalties alone hit $2 million. Civil rights violations piled on. Karen's final desperate moves planted fake drugs, caffeine pills, bogus IRS complaints, time-traveling assault warrants, backfired spectacularly. Federal takedown was swift. Then came the night the neighborhood burned. Code violations everywhere, blocked hydrants, illegal wiring. Karen watched her empire incinerate while cameras rolled. As handcuffs clicked on her and Bradley for racketeering, fraud, intimidation, I told a reporter, fire doesn't care about property values or HOA rules. It just burns what's actually dangerous. 6 months later, I stand where Karen torched my trees, breathing air that smells like fresh mulch and vindication. 120 new saplings stretch toward the Oregon sun, tender leaves whispering promises Sarah and I planted decades ago. The trials were swift. Karen got 8 years, Bradley 5. Assets seized, $3.2 million. My settlement? $500,000. But the real win was neighbors finding their voices, Mrs. Haven winning HOA presidency, the orchard becoming community therapy with students and volunteers. The Heritage Apple Festival now draws crowds, funds scholarships, and legal aid. Our case inspired national legislation protecting agricultural land from spurious HOA attacks. Karen thought destroying my trees would end my story. Instead, she planted seeds of accountability sprouting across the region. What's your worst HOA horror story? Drop in the comments. I read everyone. Hit subscribe for more David versus Goliath justice tales. Sometimes the good guys actually win.